and welcome to Hoodwinked. I'm Corey McDonald. I am your host, and I am super excited to be here today. This is episode 12, Words Matter, part 2, and I am I got a lot to say today. Man, I tell you what, I had a different platform I was going to share with you guys today, but I learned some things the last couple of days, so I'm gonna share that with you. Because I think it's important for you to know. But before we do that, hey, thank you everyone for being a part of my podcast. Thank you for some of the comments that I've gotten. Hey, if you like what I'm doing, I just encourage you to share it. There's no particular thing here. I just like doing what I do here. I've got a platform with an opinion, and so that's what I do. And you guys make it possible for me to continue to do it. So I really appreciate it. So, hey, if you want to share what we do, if you want to subscribe, if you haven't, check us out on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchasers, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And as usual, shout out to Ashton McDonald, my son, for the music. You can check him out if you like what he does on at Ace Prod on Spotify. Now, I don't even like going here, but I need to go here. Because I experienced something over the last couple of days that I didn't think I would experience. So, it all started with, the Olympics, how people want to boycott the Olympics, and, they had an image, the opening ceremony, a lot of people it was distasteful to them. They didn't like it. They said it was, a depiction of the Last Supper, of which it wasn't, but that's what a lot of Christians have said, and they took offense to it, and they didn't like it, and they wanted to boycott the Olympics. Donald Trump's son, boycott the Olympics. We want to boycott everything that we don't agree with. A couple of things to think about on that when you're considering boycotting anything is like, what was the purpose of it? Who did it? Why they were doing it? Instead of just being offended by everything. It was done in France. If you know the history of France, if you know any kind of history of Greek mythology, could have been done in better taste. Yeah, probably. But did they depict a lot of things that a lot of people disagree with? The good Christian folk, yeah. But to have the nastiness that comes from it is sickening. The question everybody has to ask themselves, if you say you follow Jesus Christ, what would Jesus Christ have said? Nothing. Because at the end of the day, the portrait of the Last Supper is art. Nothing sacred about it. In fact, the disciples and even Christ are depicted wrongly in that, because those people were not white. It's just as simple as that. So you hold that as sacred, and the Bible says don't worship images, right? Yet, we've got that out there, and you wanna boycott, and you wanna spit venom out to people because it hurt you, it hurt your heart. Americans, it wasn't done in America, right? It was done in France, in Europe, and those people, they had a right to do what they did. I don't understand it. If you boycotted the Olympics, you've missed out on a lot of things, because the Olympics have been really, really good. America's doing a great job. I think we lead the entire world in medals. So you've missed out because of your small mind. I said it, small mind. There's a lot going on. I mean, especially when you guys have, when people have a candidate running for president in America, where there have been all kinds of depictions of this guy as the next Christ. I mean, that some people were outraged, most weren't. This same guy went and put the Constitution, the Pledge of Allegiance in the Bible, and sold it for $65 a piece. I think you should be more offended by that than what you saw at the Olympics. In addition to that, when you make an error, what's the first thing you're supposed to do? You're supposed to apologize. They did. Doesn't seem to matter in America, because you know what, guys, we are a very arrogant people, and Christians are just as arrogant. The Christians want it both ways. They want their cake and they want their ice cream too. They want it all together. If you were offended, I'm pretty sure those people are really upset that they offended you. That wasn't their purpose. In fact, what it depicted was a whole lot of different people doing a whole lot of different things having a whole lot of different lifestyles that you may not have liked, but it was inclusion. How about that? Unity, inclusion. And that what we're supposed to be doing as American Christians? It's just mind-boggling to me the things that we get upset about and throw all over social media, and people get in their feelings about it. When if you really did the history of the Bible and religion and spirituality, I think you'd come out with a different mindset. It seems to me that we look for things to be offended about. Yeah, we look for things to be offended about. It's frustrating. So here's what I'll say about that. Who cares? Who cares? How did you lose your life because they depicted what they depicted? In fact, they were depicting like Greek gods. Like, you know, it had nothing to do with Christianity, and it had nothing to do with the Lord's Supper. And it had nothing to do with any part of Christianity or Christian religion. Yet, our people were offended. It's mind-boggling, man. You wonder why people call Americans arrogant. You wonder why people, you know, treat Americans abroad the way they treat Americans abroad. We do not give a good example here in this country with anything that we do. And I'm not bashing our country at all. I'm just stating facts. It's absolutely ridiculous. Makes no sense. I can tell you guys that portrait of the Lord's Supper is absolutely not sacred. So you can calm down. You can focus on something else. Why don't you focus on the principles that's in that Bible? Why don't you focus on the principles that that religion tries to tell you? You know, one of them is loving one another unconditionally. One of them is, you know, unity. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And we seem to forget that because we're so caught up in our offense, our being offended, that we don't even practice the principles that you say you believe. So I got a question. Why does the Republican Party think racial innuendo and misogyny is going to get them to win the White House? I think that's a valid question. I haven't gotten a good answer yet, but I think it's a valid question. The two people at the top of the ticket are saying some of the most ridiculous things about Kamala Harris. And the people who follow them, the people who want them in office, are repeating the same garbage, the same racial rhetoric. And then they say they're not racist and that, you know, they're good people. The portrayal of black women has been a problem since slavery. Out of any woman in the world, the black woman has had to deal with the most. There's no other race in where the woman, the wife, the mom was ripped away from their family, their kids taken away from them, their husbands beat and murdered, their families sent to someone else and they can't even find them, where their slave owner raped them, impregnated them, beat them, forced them to do their labor, called them a black dog, called them angry. If they had too many kids, they would take the kids that they didn't want. I'm talking about the slave owners. They would take the kids that they didn't want from the slave, and they would feed them to the alligators. There's no one in this country that has suffered like black women. None. Not even black men. It has always been different for the black woman. So when the misogyny remarks and the racial remarks and the remarks about, she didn't earn her way, they are extraordinarily offensive to me and to a whole lot of other people. My mom's black. My grandmothers are black. My aunts and nieces, and they're black. And it hurts. It hurts because here's what I know. Black women are the backbone of this country. Black women in slavery time couldn't even feed their own kids because they had to feed the master's kids with their breast milk. How dignifying is that? How disgusting is that? The white slave owners, the husbands, the brothers, the uncles, the nephews of the slave owner could do whatever they want with the black slave woman. And they would oftentimes rape them and beat them and impregnate them. And they couldn't even take care of their own kids because they had to take care of masses' white kids. And then after slavery, we go into Jim Crow. And they weren't even able to vote. They weren't able to get real jobs. Only jobs that they could get were jobs taking care of white folks. I mean, there was actually a movie and a book written and a movie made out of that called The Help. Those are based off of true events. It's disgusting. And so then we come out of that and we go into the war on drugs, where the federal government decided they were going to put drugs into the black communities. Because here's the fact. Before that happened, even during Jim Crow, when the black family was able to be back together and remain as a whole, the divorce rate was the lowest divorce rate in the country. And those families were intact and they stayed together regardless of their financial circumstance. But then, because of, the men couldn't get jobs because of the employment rate, they decided to start putting drugs into these communities, into the urban communities, which is another word for black communities. And then they split that home up again because the men trying to make a living for the family, the easiest way to do is to sell drugs, and they would get themselves in trouble and go to jail or be killed in gangs. But most went to jail. And because they were going to jail, so much of them were going to jail, they changed the sentencing guidelines. And a white man who's doing cocaine and a black man who's doing crack, or let's just say a white man who's selling cocaine and a black man who's selling crack, got two very different sentences. The white man was able to come out and go back home to his family at some point. The black man was put in prison for 40, 50, 60 years, life sentences. And then they start building prisons, private prisons, which is a really big business today. And they start filling these prisons up with black men. And so it left the black woman there to fend for herself. And unfortunately, a lot of those black women succumb to addiction, but because their homes were split up. Here again, someone came and took their family away from them. And so as we're trying to work our way through that, a lot of them went and got educated. And they started to build some type of life for themselves and their family. And some of them aspired to reach a higher level of success. And as they're reaching that higher level of success, they still aren't equal. They don't get equal pay. And this is not just for the black woman. This is for women in general, this part. They don't get equal pay. They're looked down. They can do the exact same job as a man, and they get lesser pay. There was a guy that came on television on one of these cable stations today, and he said that if you are a man and you vote for Democrat woman, that you have a major problem. I don't know all he said. That was enough for me to turn it off and be like, my God, what is going on? But I have people that I know who would tell me or telling me that Kamala Harris hasn't earned her position. She hasn't earned the right to run for president, which is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it. I don't know why such a thing would even be a statement. She's educated, graduated college. She was a prosecutor. She was a district attorney. She was an attorney general. She was a U.S. senator. And now she's the vice president and running for president of the United States. I don't know what more qualification you need. The only qualification she doesn't have is being a white man. She's never been convicted of a crime. She's never done anything to hurt people. I mean, I guess you know, some people bringing up her record when she was a prosecutor of putting people in jail. That's okay. That was her job, was to put people in jail who broke the law. She spent her entire adulthood in public service. But she's not qualified. She hasn't earned it. She slept her way to the top. And let's look at her opponent. He has a history too. And he was a president of the United States. Pretty big job, he's running for president now. But let's look at his past. Educated guy. His dad left him millions of dollars to start his businesses. Before he went out on his own with his dad and he were sued by the federal government twice for racial discrimination. They had code words in their applications that if a person of color, particularly black people, came to want to buy or rent from them, they had code words to deny them. And they were sued twice by the federal government, and guess what? The federal government won. He built supposedly this empire, multi-billionaire. You leave it to him to tell you. He's the richest man in the world. He, super successful. He was a TV show host of The Apprentice and got great ratings. He's an entertainer. He had multiple businesses. He filed bankruptcy 7 times. 7 times he filed bankruptcy. He has had people that has done work for him who have sued him because he didn't pay them after they did their job. And let's just look at what's going on currently in his life. He was indicted in 4 states and federal criminal cases. He has 34 felony convictions by a jury of his peers. He has 57 pending charges. He had 11 people who were his aides when he was running the country. He was the president of the United States. 11 of those aides were convicted. In his business, his CFO was convicted. His personal attorney was convicted. Everybody around him seems to go to jail. He was impeached twice by the federal government. He has an $83.3 million defamation verdict against him. Not lawsuit, verdict. He lost. He has $25 million fraud judgment against him. Yeah, another one he lost. Fraud. The 34 convictions were about fraud. He has a $5 million sexual assault and defamation verdict. Yeah, sexual assault. He was found liable in a civil sexual assault case. And the only reason it didn't go to a criminal case, become a criminal case, was because the statute of limitations ran out. Which somebody needs to change that, because anybody that was sexually abused, there's no limitation. There shouldn't be any limitations. He had a $1.6 million fraud conviction. He had a university for real estate, teaching people how to do real estate because he's a real estate mogul, and it was shut down. Guess why? Fraud. He had a charity, like a lot of people who are successful and want to give back. They normally put together a 501c3, a charity. Well, not everybody most people don't even get their charity shut down. He did. They shut his charity down. Guess why? He scammed his own charity. Fraud. If he wins president of the United States this time, he won't be able to travel to most of the countries around the world because they don't allow convicted felons to come in. Now, listen, I'm not making a judgment about this guy. These are facts. Google it. That's what I did. I Googled it. These are facts. These are real court cases. This is real. But people seem to make an excuse for him. Oh, the reason he did that, the only reason he got those convictions is because it's, they're getting back at him. It's a witch hunt. It's all this. My dad told me a long time ago when I was a kid, and he used to tell me all the time, common sense tell common people common things, Corey. Common sense tell common people common things. And then there's another saying that says, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, damn it, it's a duck. So you compare the two, and we're not even in their policies. But if you can just compare the two characters, the character of these two people, his is better than hers. He earned it. She didn't. It's offensive. It's sickening. And it's racist. Now, both of these guys have a public persona. Both of these guys have public records, right? She has a public record. She's been in public office most of her life. You can attack that. What did she do good? What didn't she do? What didn't she do? What promises she made that she didn't keep? What's her plan for the country moving forward if she's elected? All those things are up for grab. All those things you can attack her on. You can make really good arguments that she shouldn't be the president of the United States. You can make good arguments about that. You can make the same arguments with him. He was the president. Look at his record. What did he do? I mean, it's up for debate. The people on the right will tell you he did the greatest thing in the world. He was the best president in the world. People on the left will tell you he didn't do anything. He was the worst president of the world. History will prove itself. History will determine that. I have not heard one person say Donald Trump became president because he's white. I haven't heard one person say Donald Trump hasn't earned it. I haven't heard one person say Donald Trump was an angry white man. I haven't heard one person say Donald Trump sucked his way to the top when he's on tape saying just grab him by the pussy. She doesn't have a sexual libel case that she lost in which she has to pay $5 million. He does. But she's the one that people are saying she sucked her way to the top. It's offensive. Now, another thing my dad taught me and my mom taught me was to never forget where you came from, black people. Don't forget. But it seems like a lot of black people have forgotten where they come from. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean like where you came from, like I'm your dad, I'm your mom. Don't forget where you came from. We struggled. We had to get here. No. We as black people can never forget that we came from ancestors who were slaves. We came from ancestors who had to go through and live through Jim Crow. And then some of us have had to live through this war on drugs. So any level of success that we had to work our ass off for. All the success I've had to work my ass off for. I had to be better than the person in front of me. Because I got this barrier that I can't change. I got this barrier that I can't remove from myself. I got this barrier that if I could remove it, I wouldn't, because I'm a proud black man and I love who I am and I love my heritage. And because I had to work a little harder, it makes me have a little bit more grit. And that's okay. So for people who aren't very educated, and some are, to say this woman hasn't earned it, I bet you couldn't walk in her shoes for 24 hours before you want to be out of those shoes. And it has nothing to do with her character, but what people say and do about her, how she has to work much harder than most to get where she was. Attack her on her record. Attack her on what she wants to do for the country. But doggone it, you cannot attack her because she's black. You can't attack her because she's a woman. You can't attack her and say that she hasn't earned it. That's disingenuous and it's awful. Our words matter, people. All you closet racists, this guy's giving you a platform to come out. Okay, you out. What you gonna do? You out. I'm not concerned about the ones who I know are racist. I actually have a little bit of respect for them that at least they're not hiding who they are. The ones that I'm concerned about are the ones who have these ideologies and they hide them and they pretend that that's not how they feel until election time come up and a black person's running for president. Same thing happened when Obama was running for president. So I think a lot of people have a lot of things to think about. Think about who you're talking to. Think about what you're saying. Think about what kind of impact they may have on that person you're talking to. And maybe, just maybe, you'll keep your racial hatred to yourself. Let it continue to destroy and rot your soul. No one else needs to hear that garbage. It's hurtful. It's sickening. And it needs to stop. And here's the folly. Here's the folly in all of it. The more hatred y'all spill, the more sexual innuendo and racial innuendo y'all spill about this woman, and she doesn't deserve it, and she doesn't earn it, and the more y'all do that, the more people y'all waking up, the more people who were quiet y'all giving a voice to, the more people that didn't want to be involved are gonna be involved, and y'all gonna lose by a damn landslide. Then what? Well, I know what. I don't even want to discuss what. But that's what's going to happen. That's absolutely what's going to happen. She's going to win in a landslide, and it's going to be your fault because she had a record you could attack. But you decided to take the low route. You decided to put her color out there. You decided to make her color an issue. You decided to make her gender an issue. And because of that, people aren't standing for it anymore. People aren't standing for it anymore. I have 3 boys that I'm raising. And I don't want my 3 boys to live a life where they have to hide who they are. I want them to express who they are because they're beautiful and they're great. And I don't want them to darken their soul. You people out there who hide this crap and then it comes out because that's who you really are. You have darkness in you, and that's a terrible thing. I hope that we can get to a better place. I thought we were at a better place. But it doesn't seem like we are, especially in this. I mean, it used to be where these people wouldn't even go on TV and say these stuff. Now they're on TV and they're saying the nastiest thing because it's the platform that this man has laid out. They're emulating him. Oh, my goodness. I needed to do this because, I experienced something the last couple of days that really hurt me from some people who I had respect for and who I cared about and who I thought they had the same thing for me. But what they didn't realize is as they attack this woman with these type of epithets, it affects me. They're talking to me. They're saying the same thing. If they say it about her and they don't know her, what are they saying about me and they know me? It's going to be an interesting few months coming up. And I haven't even gotten to the black people who is okay with this stuff. I haven't even gotten to y'all. I'm getting to y'all in part 3. And it's not going to be tame because shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. Either you don't know your history or you're just choosing to be an idiot, to be stupid. Now, if you're a black person and you're a Republican, I don't have a problem with that. I've voted Republican before. If you're a black person and you want change in this country, I don't have a problem with that. If you're a black person and you not going to vote for Kamala Harris, I don't care. If you're a black person and you want to attack her record, I don't care. But if you're a black person and you're attacking her race and you're saying misogynistic things, you're no different than the ghetto rapper who's calling women the be-all over the place. You're no better than the white folks who are saying all the racial crap. You're the same thing, and you have forgotten where you come from. So I have a little lesson for everybody. If you think I'm just talking, you just think I'm pulling this stuff out of my butt, Google it. Google Jim Crow racial slurs. Google Donald Trump's record, his court cases. Google it. It's right there. Google his history. It's right there. Google her history. It's right there. I thought we were in a better place. We're not. We need to get better. We need to do better. Our kids deserve better. You all say you want to live in a country where you're free, in a country where everyone is equal. Then we have to get this stuff out of our system. It has to go because it is divisive. It divides people. It puts people in corners. It does not bring people together, does not bring unity. And then for all you good old Christians out there who have these ideas, and I understand why you have them, because the slave owners had them too. The slave owners thought they were doing God's work. While they beat, murder, rape, they thought they were doing God's work because they misinterpreted some scripture. So maybe you guys need to understand what the real scripture says, right? I understand how you can get it confused because your ancestors got it confused. But what I'm going to tell you is that that's not what Christ stands for. Absolutely not. What your religion stands for, it's not what Christ stands for. So I'll be back with part 3. And I'm looking forward to it. This has tamed me, but man, I just don't get it. I hope y'all get some things figured out between now and November. And listen, it ain't about who's going to be president. It's about how we get to that point. It's about doing the right thing. It's about being honest. Because even you bigots out there, you know you're just speaking from hatred. You had no facts. Life is a trip, man. But we all have opportunities. We all have opportunities, people. I'm Corey McDonald. This is Hoodwinked.